Hello, happy Wednesday, Facebook. How is everyone doing? Let me know where you're coming from as you're jumping on. I'm coming from Tennessee. Here she comes, here she comes.
Hello, hello.
Hi, guys. Welcome. Hello.
I always intend to post ahead of time, like, hey, we're gonna talk today about cool stuff, and then life happens and Dylan happens and I barely make it by 1:30.
I usually do, but I forgot today. So sorry,
Yeah.
guys. Glad you're
Well,
here.
hopefully, what is this, our 12th one or
10th.
something like
It's
that?
our 10th,
10?
but that's
Oh,
close.
that's actually a big milestone.
I,
10
I
weeks in a
mean,
row. Well,
well,
we missed
not
a week.
not in a row. I think we tried to go live and the internet broke, right? And then so
Yeah.
there's a couple extra. Maybe it's been 12 weeks of effort for 10 weeks of actual material. How's that?
I think that counts. I think the heart is where it really matters, and we definitely
It's
have the heart to come on every Wednesday that we can.
we have the heart to come on. Totally.
It's it's looking like you're glitching in and out, but
I
hopefully it's gonna be
know.
okay.
Sorry, guys. Tell us what you're witnessing on your side. But yeah, we were having some tech issues. I don't know what's going down.
What you're
What's
witnessing, that sounds very extreme.
what are you
Hi,
witnessing?
Chelsea.
Hi,
You
guys.
guys
Hi,
are gonna have to
Wilma.
be and Elise. Hello, Elise. Um, well, without further ado, this, if you don't know where you are, is What Do You Know? What Do We Know with Win and Wit? Perspective, inspiration, and education. Hi, Daniel. About some hot topics and try and meet somewhere in the middle. You know the drill. As you're coming on, please let us know where you're coming from. We love to hear all the different states and locations and how the weather is, how you guys are doing. It's finally so beautiful outside, getting a little bit hot over here. Hello, Wilma. If you're catching the replay, type replay so that we can give you a shout out after. We definitely appreciate if you can't catch the live that you check it out later. My name is Whitney. I am a mom to a fur baby and my son named Dylan. And I'm a wife and a small business owner in the making, and I am in Northern California.
And it was her birthday yesterday.
It
Happy
was.
birthday. How old are you? I've lost track.
Me too, actually. I kind of had to do the math, carry the two. I'm 33.
You're 33? I was going to say, what are you, 32 now? How old am I? I thought you're closer to me than I thought, but I'm about to be 36
Well,
later. Okay, that
yeah,
makes
and
sense.
your post had me rolling about how much of a transformation I've had since I was born. She says, you've had such a transformation. I mean, you've gained at least 100 pounds since this photo, which was my baby photo, like my just born photo.
I'm so
So
funny. I'm very
leave
clever.
it to your sister to call you out. Thank you very much for the birthday wishes, guys.
So year 33, that's your Jesus year. I don't know if you know that, but Jesus was 33 when he died. It's an important year.
Oh, well,
Yep.
I hope I
No,
live longer than 33.
no pressure. Do something
To live or to
significant.
die?
To do something significant in your 33rd year
Oh,
of life.
did
I have
you do
no,
anything significant?
probably. Obviously, it's like coming to the front of mind right now. So, yes, no.
Well,
It's
fair
all
enough.
right. It's just important to put weight on your shoulders, right?
Perfect. Thank you for that. I didn't have enough, so thank you. That's
Just dump
perfect.
weight on you. Perfect. Well, I'm Wendy. She already said who she is. I'm Wendy. I'm a wife. I'm a mom, a business owner, a blogger, author, speaker. I live in Middle Tennessee, and it's my anniversary tomorrow. So
Wait,
there's
your
that.
wedding anniversary.
Yeah. my 11-year wedding anniversary. So Whitney,
Hi,
I don't know,
Terry.
I guess I tried to steal some of your thunder by getting
Uh-huh.
married on your birthday weekend. Sorry about that.
I also
But
graduated college that weekend that you got
that's
married, but
true. And I
but you know, you
came.
do you.
I came. Actually, it was the
And then
weekend
I came to
before.
yours. Yeah, it
That's
was. It
friendly.
was.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a busy time of year. I'm sure y'all have, like, everyone's anniversaries in May. Like, there's so many anniversaries. It's like a very popular month. So happy anniversary to everybody's whose anniversary it is. And
Yay.
anyway, back to the shameless plug. I write a blog, as you guys know, and it's called gainingmyperspective.com. And you can actually link to our YouTube channel through my blog. Like if you go to the bottom of the front page of my blog, you can click on our YouTube channel from there if you just want to find it that way and then just drive some traffic through my blog. I'm just saying that'd be fine. But most importantly, subscribe to my newsletter if you're friendly, because I haven't even sent one out yet, but I'm going to send one tomorrow. And it's just once a month, but it's helping me write a book, guys. So who doesn't want to read a book that I write? I mean,
Well, who doesn't want to help you achieve your dreams? Is probably
that's
a better
also
angle.
true. Also better.
I'm excited to see the newsletter. That's going to be awesome.
I'm a little nervous because I don't know what a newsletter is supposed to be, but hey, when has that stopped us from doing things? We don't know what this is supposed to be 10 weeks in. And here we are.
Well, how about you just be authentic and
Ooh,
then
there she goes.
it'll be great. So you go ahead from there.
Reel her back in, she says. So yeah, today we're going to talk about being authentic. For the love of goodness, we need it in this world, right? More authenticity. And we're going to talk about that because I do feel like once I was unpacking this, it is something I feel pretty strongly about. But we want to dive deep into what it looks like to be authentic, why we should be, and what distracts us from that in our lives, right? So I'm going to pass it over to my brain, my sister, and she's going to set us up with a solid definition to work from.
Well, funny backstory, maybe not funny to anyone else, but Wendy had the actual definition in there.
I Googled it.
For me to read.
Jump ahead.
Yeah.
I'm just going to like do work for my sister. Nope.
I'm just going to assume that Whitney will always want to know exactly what the definition of words are and how to spell them and all of that.
Yeah.
But really, I read through the definition. I thought, yes, that is what authenticity is. It's a noun. It could be an adjective if you're authentic, blah, blah, blah. But what I found more fascinating, and so I made a last minute change up, is more the humanistic psychologist definition, because that is more, being authentic is more like a personality, like a intrinsic thing than it is like a superficial, just 4 words worth of a definition. So psychologists would say by definition that authentic people all fall into the same 7 common characteristics. And after I read them, I was like, that is super true. Like that is what I think of when I think of authentic people. So one is they have realistic perceptions of reality. They aren't living in this false sense of what is real and what is not. They're accepting of themselves and other people. They're too busy living their own life to pass judgment on what other people are doing. They are thoughtful. A lot of authentic people really have the heart of gold. They really want to care about what other people, how other people perceive them, how they perceive other people, being very kind and open. They have a non-hostile sense of humor. This one kind of made me laugh because I feel like I'm authentic, but sometimes the joke is worth it.
You're pretty hostile.
Well, maybe like sometimes you go there, and it's not necessarily hostile, but like maybe not PC. But anyway.
It's authentic to who you are. So I appreciate it.
Fair enough. They are able to express their emotions freely and clearly, so they aren't apologizing for how they feel. They are open to learning from their mistakes. This one is huge. None of us are perfect, nor should we strive to be. We are perfectly imperfect, so the more you can embrace that, the more authentic you will be. And a authentic person understands their motivations. They know where they're going. They are rooted in their plan for success, and they, again, don't apologize for it. So it's not about being the most enthusiastic or outspoken. Oftentimes we think authentic people are like hype people, but it's unauthentic people can be just as convincing in those things, right? It doesn't mean that they really mean what they're saying, and they may have a hidden agenda. They may not be really in it for the right reasons. So I wanted to know from the audience, as we were talking about this, how can we be more authentic? And what do you think is the biggest threat to our ability to be authentic? Why would you hesitate to be authentic? What external forces are driving you to be a little fearful of that?
And adding to that,
So,
do you feel like that's important? Do you value authenticity? Right. Do you think that's an important trait? Because I feel like we undervalue it largely, which is obviously why we're talking about it, because I think it's just completely undervalued in the world that we're living in. But yeah, just kind of digging into what makes someone authentic a little bit further. I think too, adding to the definition, just my own thoughts, consistency. And Thomas and I talk about this a lot in specifically like philosophically consistent over certain topics. Like you'll have someone that is like super passionate over here and then is absolutely in like contradiction to themselves in another topic over here. And that lack of consistency in their own perspective comes from trying to fit in over here and trying to be popular over here and trying to be, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, they're more influenced by the outside as opposed to influencing from the inside, right? And that causes a ton of inconsistency, which I see a lot of that on social media, right? Like, and when just in general, like when you see someone pop up over here and you're like, wow, that's like totally in conflict to what you were just talking about over here, and like, okay, that's weird. And it just, it erodes trust. It erodes, integrity, right? I mean, these are some of the things. I'm kind of jumping around a little bit on our concept notes here. Sorry about that. But, I really value, that is a value of mine, is authenticity is one of my top 5 words for myself of things I value, up there with faith, family, freedoms, authenticity, and being funny. Those are like my 5 things that I feel like are core of who I am. And I am probably the number one most thing I get complimented on in my training or in my professional life is you're so real. That's what I hear. You're so real. And again, speaking to authenticity, and I'm, again, no expert on this, but I do take pride in hearing that feedback, right? That makes me happy. I feel like I'm on the right track because that's a gauge, right? And I always laugh at that. What else should I be? When someone's like, how funny that a compliment for someone is you're so real. Like, that's so weird that we would compliment that, because shouldn't we all just be real? But if someone's pointing out someone's realness, it is because it's in contrast to perceptions elsewhere, right? So I just find that so interesting when people say that to me. I'm like, first of all, I take pride, but also like, why is that? Why am I different than other people for that specific reason? That's so interesting. But
yeah, absolutely. And I think that, if behind what a person says and does is defensive or, self-deceptive, like like you said, they're in contrast with what they're saying and then their actions don't back it up. No matter how passionate or committed they are to a specific cause, ultimately they aren't being true to themselves, right? So they're not rooted in their truth. And it is funny that people compliment you on that. I do think you are one of the more real people that I know, but that's ironic that people would say that as a compliment, because, it must just be in stark contrast to what you see everywhere else. So much fake, so much fabrication of, and kind of exploiting your good qualities and then hiding your bad qualities. And that's not what being authentic is, right? It's the good, the bad, and the ugly, right?
Well, as an example, I don't mean to jump in on you, but why is Rachel Hollis flying through the freaking ceilings right now as like this massively popular, relatable woman? She's like the opposite. I mean, if you've seen this chick on social media, like, love her to death, but like, she's got like bright red face half the time. Like, she looks like a hot mess sometimes, which I love. Because let's be real.
Right.
We're all hot mess. Like, she's got 4 kids, right? And like a crazy demanding career.
She's
and
busy.
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Like, of course she should look a little red in the face and a little flustered and a little, like, I just love that she is on the forefront of pushing that out, especially on the platform of social media, because I am recognizing now, especially in what we do with that, you'll see people. And again, I do fear this in a specific generation, the generation that's coming up living in social media, right? Like, because I just said to my husband over lunch today, what would I be like as an adult today if I was on Instagram at the age of 16? How would that have influenced my, I mean, that's such a critical lifetime, like time of defining yourself and figuring out who you are. And man, that would have, you can't say it wouldn't have influenced who you became if you were trying, like, we just weren't forced. MySpace was the first real social media I participated in, and that was late college for me. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that, right? So like,
thank goodness, right?
I know.
For
I'm
us.
grateful. I'm grateful for that, because you meet someone in real life that you've been following or whatever on social media, and sometimes you don't recognize them physically, which is crazy, because all you're doing is looking at their face on social media. So how is it that I cannot recognize you physically? And then also their personality is in direct contrast, again, that inconsistency of what they're putting out, right? And this is happening more and more and more when I'm meeting people for reals, and I'm like, oh man, it breaks my heart almost, because I'm just like, dude, that's so crazy, right? And again, it inflates our ego, and it allows our ego to lead the show. And ego is like innately going to lead you away from authenticity, because ego is essentially inflating the things we think of ourselves and the things that necessarily aren't real or aren't true or whatever. Where, it's just, it's deceptive. Ego is deceptive. But yeah, I feel like there's not even an attempt to be real in the world today. It's more about what can I create myself to be? Does that make sense? Like, instead of who am I, let's check there. Who am I? That's what I'm going to put forth in the world. You go, who do I want to be? That's what I'm going to make myself be created into, right? Like, you're just putting forth this thing. Again, it's causing that inconsistency, because that's not who you actually are, right?
Well, and all relationships, what?
I'm laughing at Katie. She's going to show us some pictures of her being real phase in her glasses.
Oh, good. You should. I like it. Embrace it. I forget exactly what I was going to say, but the whole point of why we build relationships, why we talk to people, is to build that sense of community, right? And they have to have that know, like, and trust factor to build the relationship. And if they don't really know who you are, and when they meet you, you're very inconsistent, the trust is gone, right? So they may like who you appear to be on social media, but the second they see that you are really someone completely the opposite of that, they will feel betrayed, and it will have that adverse reaction to what they're intending. And so that type of stuff, I mean, it bothers me, but it will catch up to them eventually, right? Like, they will get their comeuppance. You can't just live behind the screen your whole life,
But people are doing it, and doing it well. And I agree with you. I think it's all going to fall apart, but it hasn't yet. Like, if anything, society is waging war on authenticity, in that you can make an entire living from your phone being, like you said, an influencer, right? And I want you to talk a little bit more about that, because you are, like, I go to my sister when I'm like, I need to be an influencer on social media. Like, what do I have to do? And it's so interesting for me trying to maintain authenticity and become an influencer in the social media realm. Right. It's dang near impossible. Like, the more I elevate, the more I'm getting messages from people that are like, I can get you this many followers, and I can get you this many likes of things. And I'm just like, is that how it works? And I know you know the backside of that. So I'm going to jump ahead, but tell me about that.
Yeah, it's such a shallow representation of who we really are, right? And you're right, social media is such a huge thing to consider when we're talking about authenticity, because it is so easy to fabricate what your life is and not share your lows and only share your highlight reel. It's so easy to slap a filter on a photo instead of showing your red face from, you know, when you're puffy or when you've ran around the block and then you post a picture. Like, we are so covered in layers of filters, it's really hard to see who the real person is. And I've talked about this a lot, you know, with a background in marketing. We talk about influencer marketing all the time, and it's highly sought after to find an influencer that can push your product further down, you know, like get more eyeballs on your product, get more sales, blah, blah, blah. So that's like a very superficial high level of why people look for influencers. But it got me to thinking about this, and it's funny authenticity came up because an influencer, like, what are you influencing? Like, you are influencing people to buy something. You're not really using your powerful skills of impacting someone's decision making in a positive way. Oftentimes it is so shallow. And that's the main point that I wanted to say, is that people are buying likes and followers because it's perceived that you are more deserving of attention if you have 1 million followers than if you have 100, but you have a heart of gold and you have a lot of important things to say. So we talk about this a lot, and I just wanted to piggyback on, as you're trying to grow your following and stuff, when that we always talk about this. You will find your audience. You will find the people that you will influence, and you're not going to find it by buying people's likes from Russia, or, you know, like by having these people that you don't know engaging with your content, because that's not going to amplify and make you a true influencer, an authentic difference maker. So I hope everyone can see through that BS for what it really is.
Totally.
You know? So
no, that's
with time, we'll see.
It is funny that, like, you put out something that's not real to attract followers to the thing that's not real, to use your influence to then manipulate the people who are watching it, right? I mean, like,
yeah,
whoa,
right.
That's like a big giant web of crazy. But no, I mean, there's a million ways. Social media, we talked about filters, highlight reels, keeping up with the Joneses, influencing this mentality of you'll never be enough. You're always looking at everybody's best day, right? Which is being constructed. I mean, my stories, you guys know, like, I'm drinking this drink, right? And then I take a picture of the things that I put in this drink, right? You know, it's just so funny that we're constructing this, and I think it can add value and there's purpose in it. And I'm not smashing the whole thing. Obviously, I'm participating in it, but, like, it's a slippery slope of maintaining. Did you drink the drink that you made? Or, you know, like, did you put on the makeup that you're saying? Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like there's so much of that where I'm like, you're not even using that product. You're just using your influence to push something, but it's not who you are at all. Or,
right.
This whole movement of catfishing people, and, like, you know, using other people's social media accounts or pictures to construct an entirely different persona that you're operating through, like an avatar. Yep. I mean, there's, like, so much deception and almost acceptance in, well, that's just what happens in social media.
That's what today is, right?
Yeah, no, man, you guys, we got to fight for, it is important for us to be authentic. And we already touched on some of this, like your trust, your integrity, not just you, but what you're creating, the life you're creating, what you're teaching your kids. I mean, how are we teaching our kids to navigate this really artificial world, right? Brene Brown talks about vulnerability being your number one asset in your ability to be relatable or connect with other people, having a genuine connection with people. So if we lose that, I mean, that's like at the core of humanity is connection, right? And
since the beginning of civilization.
Right? That's the whole reason we all come together and live in one spot. It's to, like, coexist, connect, do things together, do life together, right? Like, that's innately in us. So social media for a time, this is kind of becoming a social media conversation as opposed to authenticity, but it's so related. For a time, and in a way still, social media connects us further. but on the same side, we're missing how it's absolutely disconnecting us. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's putting a blockade, and it's not encouraging vulnerability, which is what actually connects us. So my desire, my hope for this conversation, just to put it blatantly out there, is that we would all strive to be more vulnerable, specifically in our social media, but in our lives in
Mm-hmm.
general. You know, like, it's okay to be this way or that way. It's okay to not know exactly what you're doing. It's okay to fail. It's okay to not get it right. It's okay to put your goals out and not hit them. Like, these are all things that every
Mm-hmm.
single human is going through. And I think we'll find this like resurgence in connection and just value when we're
Mm-hmm.
willing to put ourselves out there in a real way, and not just put ourselves out there in a social media way. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, and it's important, even though this has become very social media heavy, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
people who are growing up in today's world, it is heavily influenced by using the apps on your phone. And
Mm-hmm.
most of those are social media apps. And there is a badillion social media apps. Like obviously Facebook, Instagram, those are the main hitters, but it's everywhere. And I'm sure there are apps that teens know that we don't even know
Oh
about that
gosh, I'm
are
so afraid.
that
So
are
afraid.
just as pressure ridden. Like there is so much pressure to look and act and be a certain way that genuine connection is missing. We
Mm-hmm.
used to, before, we used to not even have phones at our fingertips, right? They used to be connected to the wall, for God's sakes. Like some of you may not even know what that means, but but in those days, in that day and age, you know, you would meet in person, you would have that connection, you would have the touching. And I don't want to go too, you know, sappy on that, but we need to have connection physically and emotionally, and you can't have that when you're hiding behind a screen and you're only presenting your best self. And there are psychological ramifications for being inauthentic. Your entire life, everything that you are is just what you see on social media. Well, you still are a human that exists outside of the screen. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to develop your authenticity. You have to own it one way or another. Just hopefully you're not, you know, in your 30s or 40s trying to figure out like, oh man, I'm just having to come out of hiding now, you know,
Right.
which might happen to this next generation.
This
Yes, Carrie Ann.
What? This is tying well here at the end of this conversation to our conversation last week about identity, and just knowing who you are, anchoring in who you are, and putting that forward is authenticity, right? And that happens through social
Mm-hmm.
media mostly, but we also fake it in real life, you know, like we also, you know, I've had very dear close friends of mine who are pathological liars. Like they're face to face, right?
Yeah.
Like just saying things that aren't true, telling stories, elaborating all these things. Your actual self, your actual truth is like perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine, you know, and just
Yeah.
having being okay with being imperfect, being okay with having seasons of life that are good and seasons of life that are
Mm-hmm.
bad, and in both capacities, owning, like saying, you know what, gosh, I'm failing right now, and being honest in those seasons where you're failing, and then equally being, I'm having this is a great year, like I'm in a great year right now, you know what I mean, like having
Mm-hmm.
permission to have both, because there's both in life, right? But it
Mm-hmm.
can't all be the best year ever, and also it's not always the worst year ever. Like it's, you know, like there's
Mm-hmm.
that balance of, are you putting out what's authentic to you? Like, is this really where you're at in your life, or are you faking it? Or, and it's different than being positive and faking it. Different. I'm not saying like if you're looking on the bright side, you're faking it. Like, don't misunderstand me. But you know what I mean? Just again, inauthenticity strips away our identity. We have to be back at the core of who we are, and putting that forth and protecting that, and anchoring into that through the, you know, wading through these waters of social media and this world that we're in right now and the culture that we're in right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's the story. That's the long and short.
Oh, totally. I just started reading, you were talking about Rachel Hollis. I just started reading Girl Stop Apologizing. And that's so far the message that I'm getting is don't apologize, be unapologetically authentic, because you do not need to be small for someone else. You do not need to show up and be big for someone else. All you need to do is be yourself, and you will make an impact that you cannot even imagine, right? Just by being yourself. And how exhausting to keep up with all the lies and all the tales that you've told about how great you are. Like, why not just be great, live it up, and then you can own it, right? You don't have to like feel like your accomplishments are not really your accomplishments. You know, you get to own all of your journey.
And so, I think the like putting forth of this just came to my mind, when other people are putting forth all these shows, again, the comparison game makes us feel like, well, I'm not good at that, so I must not be good. It's like, no. What are you actually just good at by yourself? Like, you don't have to use somebody else's strengths as some sort of a measure for how good you should be at things. Like, I'm not good at a lot of things. What am I good at, right? And I think that keeps us trapped, is other people's inauthenticity is making us feel less than in our own strengths. You know, it's just this whole, well, that's a whole nother episode. That's a whole nother
talk about comparison.
That's comparison. It's a whole different thing.
But if you are authentic, then you're not worried about comparing yourself to other people, because you know you're doing you.
You don't struggle with that as much. That's for sure.
Yeah. So, you know, obviously at the end of this, we always give the caveat. This is what do we know? There's stuff we don't know, right? When we just try and do the best at being who we are, right? And sharing our hearts. We
pretty much know everything. I think at this point on our 10th episode, we can safely say.
Let's just change the title to We Know Everything with Wen and Wit. I think that everyone will jump on board. They'll want to know.
Much better marketing.
You know how I love an expert who is unopen to any other opinions. That's my favorite person. Not. You see, I just said not. That's like a 90s throwback.
And not.
Sykes. So there's a lot that we still don't know. As we're closing things up, I just wanted to remind you guys that if you don't catch this and you don't catch the replay, you can hop on over to YouTube. We do upload those videos, and by we, I mean Wendy does it. Thank you for doing that. You can search for Wen ampersand, aka &wit.
It's the best.
And you can find our videos. Hi, Charles. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram. Wendy's Instagram is at a.wendy.bird, and mine is at WhitneyJanelle28. We share a lot of inspiration, a lot of authenticity, a lot of what's going on in our lives on Instagram. We'd love for you to follow us. We promise we're for real. And we'll see you guys next week at the same time, same place, where we will be discussing the idea of failure.
Ooh, that's so fun. Come for that. Come for that. And please, in the comments, whether we're about to end the video, but in the comments, please write words, topics, thoughts, what that you would love to hear us weigh in on, because we want some audience participation. What are some topics that you're like, I would love you guys to talk about this, or we struggle with this, what can we do about this? Share away, friends.
Share, love, like, whatever you feel. Just do you.
Do you. Whatever authentic to you. If it's authentic to share this video, you should
or be bribed to share it, like whichever is fine. Just
either way, whichever.
Just know what you're doing. All right, bye.
All right, friends. Have a good day. Happy Wednesday. Bye.
Bye.